Hello and welcome to Programming Tutorial 3, Introduction to Lists and Arrays. In this tutorial, you will be learning how to use lists and arrays to store data for your RPG shop. These include things like weapons, armor, consumables, and other things of that nature. By the end of this tutorial, you will understand how to create lists and arrays, when to properly use the different types, and how to properly store data within them. If you're looking for the hand-in for this week, please refer to the recap section, as that is where it will be covered. Until then, let's get started. All right, let's get into it. As you can see, I already have our project from last time still open. We're already open. And if you remember, we set it up so we have a game loop that will loop infinitely. We can just keep pressing enter. If we write hi, they'll greet us. If we write exit, they will tell us that we can leave. So we're gonna do a little bit of cleaning up just to make it nice. And basically all that means is you see this print farewell. We don't need it there. Where it would go nicely is right here, actually. So this just makes it so that we can keep everything within their respective statements. And then one other thing that we should do is we just change this to an else if. Basically, all that means is if this ends up being true, it's just not going to run this check, which in the end is really good because it's faster. We don't want it to run the check when we don't need it to. There's no reason for that. So an else if just makes it so, doesn't run anything. What we're gonna do, apologies. We're just gonna write an else. Now else is basically, so is it this? Is it this? Well, if it's not this or this, like if it's not if, and if it's not else if, then anything else is else. So we're just going to make it so that it will print an error, basically. Static void print error. Right line. Please enter a valid command. And that's all. We're just going to print error. And the reason why we put that in a function is just because, look, now we have print greeting, print farewell, print error. Another thing that we can technically do is we can actually move shopping equals false into our print farewell function. And now we've got print greeting, print farewell, and print error. So let's go in. So if we try to press enter, please enter a valid command. Please enter a valid command. Hi. Hello. Leave. There we go. So now it's a little more organized. But this tutorial is all about specifically lists and arrays. Now, there are two different ways to get a number of objects into the same object, if that makes any sense. For example, this right here is actually an array. You pass an array of args to the program when you run it, and then main gets to access it. Now, we're obviously not using args. We don't need them. There's no reason for us to use them, which is completely fine. Um, but the issue with arrays is the program needs to know their size on startup. When you're creating one up here, the program needs to know, okay, there's going to be 5 objects in your array. That's not super helpful when you want to, for example, like if you have player inventory and shop inventory, and your player starts with 0 items, that means the array has a size of 0. And that's not super useful because now we can't add to that array without creating a brand new array dynamically, which just isn't helpful. Um, and then to top it off, if we remove an item from the shop inventory because the player bought it, try to add it to the player inventory, we have to create a new player array. And then the shop inventory will have an empty slot, an empty space in their array, which isn't useful. And that's why lists exist. So what we're going to do right up here is we are going to create a static list, and we're just going to make them strings for now. Um, simply because we don't need them to be anything else right now. All we want is a name to display. And you'll notice that there's an error. List doesn't exist. Okay. Well, the reason for that is we don't have the include. And an include is just something that lets you use important stuff. So system, collections, generic is how you access list. List is included within system collection because list is a collection type. If you notice, when I hover over it, system, collections, generic, list. And you know, it represents a collection of items. So does an array. However, arrays are basic types that don't actually need an include or anything like that. Um, but yeah, so this is our shop items list. And then, so right now we're not really gonna have full functionality in our store, but we're gonna player items list. You won't be able to like you won't be purchasing anything, but you'll be able to store items in your list. So what do we want to do? Well, we got to populate our list. So we're going to create static void um, fill shop. And so we're just going to, so this is going to be not random at all. So the shop is going to have the exact same inventory every single time. So we're just going to start adding items. So, you know, iron sword, iron shield, iron helm, iron chest. And so we're gonna separate these like this. So these are armor items. And so what I just did here is something we haven't covered yet. This is a comment. And a comment is used to describe your code to other people that are reading it. So weapon items, and then we're gonna go down here. Consumable items. So shop items list, health potion. Mana potion. And so what we just created is a function that fills our shop list with items. So we're going to add it here, fill shop. There we go. So now that we've got that, we want a way to see their wares. So we're going to add another if statement. So if input equals by string comparison ordinal ignore case. And we're just gonna, we don't need a second, anything for this one. So we should change this to an else if because it is the second one in an if statement. You'll notice that when we change it to an else if, everything starts getting highlighted. Whereas when it's like this, the top one isn't. So we want a new function. And we're going to call this function display items. And in here, we're going to actually have, we're going to go up here. We're going to create a static bool buying. And so we're going to have another while loop, while buying. And at the top of this function, we're going to set buying equal to true. This way, whenever we enter this function, so if we run it here, whenever we enter this function, it will allow us to loop infinitely, even if we've reset it to false at some point. And so we're going to first add input equals return. And then we're going to do comma string comparison ordinal ignore case. And then we're going to do or input dot equals back. And then string comparison ordinal ignore case. There we go. So this we set buying equal false. And so now what we're going to do is in the beginning of this, before our loop, and that's another thing that we can do here. Watch this. So if we remove printed intro, remove the if statement, and then we control X, and then control V this content up here, it'll do the exact same thing. We just won't need to check. Part of the reason why we used printed intro in the first video was to show you how to properly use an if statement in that sense. But what we can do here is we can do, so we're going to do, this is another type of loop. For int I equals 0, I is less than, so I is your iterator. And so I, this is the, so I equals 0 is what number does I start at? And then this is your condition, I is less than, and then we're going to use shop items list dot count. And count is the number of items in our list. So in our case, there will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There will be 6 items in the list. And then I++. So in our loop, it'll be for when I starts at 0, I will continue to increase until it reaches shop items list dot count. So until it reaches 6, at which point the loop will end. So instead of using a while loop here, we're going to use a for loop because a for loop will allow us to loop through all of the items in our list. So we're going to console dot write line, and we're going to use this to make a string literal. And then if you remember what we did up here, the brackets, we're going to put the letter I plus 1 because I starts at 0. And then we're going to put a colon and shop items list and then square bracket I, and that'll access the item at I. So if I is 0, then it'll be iron sword. If I is 1, it'll be iron shield. I is 2, it'll be iron helm. I is 3, it'll be iron chest, and so on until we reach 5. Because there are 6 items in our list. And because 0 counts as an item, it goes 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And as you can see, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 items. So all we're doing here is we're printing out a number next to our shop items list. And we're going to we're going to loop through those, print them all. And before that, we're going to write console.writeLine. Please write the number next to the item you would like to buy. And then we're going to add a /n. I'm going to go over here. We're going to add a /n so that there's another line of space in between each one. And then we're going to write console write line. What would you like to buy? And then /n. There we go. And so now that we have our return and back already in there, and we have some things writing, we're going to run. So we're going to write buy. Now it's going to say, please write the number next to the item you would like to buy. And then we got iron sword, iron shield, iron helm, iron chest, health potion, or mana potion. And so if I want to buy any of that, I can't. Because you know what we didn't do? We didn't add back the input. Absolutely. So we are not capturing input in here. So what we're going to do is we're going to capture input, and we're going to try, go back into it, write buy, and then 1, doesn't do anything. So we can write return, and it doesn't reprint the intro, as you can see. But now if I write hi, it'll introduce, because I'm not in the buying section anymore. So the big thing that we want is we want to have a greeting. So what we're going to do is, you see this print greeting? We are going to replace print greeting with this. And so at the beginning of our shop, we are going to print a greeting. Technically, we could just make another function for that, but I don't see a reason for that personally. So what we can do here is print greeting. So we're going to go to buy, And then we're going to go back. I'm going to go to buy. I'm going to go back. We're going to go to buy. And then we're going to go back. And so on and so forth. And if we want it to be even more correct, we're going to add another /n. And you'll notice that the spacing between everything is consistent now. I'm going to go to buy. I'm going to go back, buy, back. And so on. And that's lists. We have our list. We have the ability to go into a buy section. It lists all of our objects. And if we want, we can write, we'll change return to an else if. So we'll add if input dot equals, and then we're going to check it against. So what you'll notice is we don't have anything. We're not checking for a specific word or a name. We're checking for a number. So what we can do is int choice equals, we can do if int dot try parse, and you'll notice try parse returns a bool. And then what we do is we create an int up here, int choice, and this is empty. It doesn't need to have anything. So int choice, and then we put in our input, and we take out choice. Oh, sorry, we have to add out choice, and then we go in here, we add else, and so now we can use this thing called a switch statement. So switch choice, and then case, or wait, no, sorry, not switch choice. What we can do specifically is, now that we have the int for the choice, so if it's a 1, we really want item 0. So what we can do is player items list equals, or sorry, we can do player items list dot add, and then we do shop items list dot, or at, and then we do choice -1. So we've added it. And now we can do shop items list dot remove at, and then choice -1. And then what we can do is, so you see this up here, we should put this into a function. So we're going to call this static void print items. And we're going to control C, control V it. And this will just print out the items for us. So we're going to write print items. And then after we've removed it, we're going to print items for the new list. Yeah. So now if we run the program, hello, welcome. And then we go to buy, iron sword, and you'll notice iron sword is no longer there. And if we want to make this better, and this is just a last minute thing that we can do. So if we want to make this better, we can do console.writeLine. You have now, or we can make it a literal using the $. You've now purchased, and then shop or player items list, and then at player items list dot count -1, because the object that you've just added to player items list will always be the last one. Congrats. And then we can add a /n at the end. And then close that line off with a semicolon, and we run it again. Now if we go to buy, iron sword, you have now purchased the iron sword. Congrats. Go to 2, you've now purchased the iron helm. Congrats. Go to 1 again, you've now purchased the iron shield. Congrats. And then if we press back, and then we exit, thank you for coming to the shop. I hope you enjoyed your stay. And that's everything. You now have a functioning list of shop items and player items that switches. Congratulations on completing your third tutorial. On to the recap.